Greetings, space friends! One of my first CG animated ship videos, back when I had far less skill, was about the Cloak-Shape fighter from the Star Wars Expanded Universe. I liked the scrappy nature of the Cloak-Shape, first seen in the Dark Empire comic and used by pirates and bounty hunters. Later in the first Star Wars games and novels, it is described as a versatile, customizable, heavy fighter, armed and equipped in a variety of different ways due to its relatively large frame. It sounds like a perfect early fighter for a game I've been getting into called Empyrion Galactic Survival. It's a sandbox space survival game that takes place on alien planet surfaces and progresses into space. You can design and build bases, vehicles, and ships of your own, kind of in the same spirit of other games such as Space Engineers or Empyrion. Now, I'm still relatively new to the game, so keep this in mind when you see what I've done here, but it's the perfect outlet for some creative juices lately. In the game, I discovered it would be helpful to have a small ship for getting around the solar system or local moons, one that could easily be modified depending on what the needs were. This is my first serious attempt at designing an Empyrion ship. Just like in Star Wars, this is built to be customized. To that end, its main feature is the underside upgrade bay, accessible via this shutter door. From here you have access to the innards of the ship. My first unupgraded version already has an O2 station for refilling spacesuit oxygen, very useful when you need to do something like scavenger wreck on a planet with no breathable atmosphere, a fridge for storing perishables, ammo boxes for the weapons, a substantial fuel tank, and relatively large cargo capacity for such a small vessel. This is a Tier 2 ship in this configuration, meaning it can only support so much equipment for the computer core to handle. Of course, with the Tier 3 CPU capacity, a serious upgrade, it can support a lot more. But let's talk about this version first. In Star Wars, the Cloak-Shape did not normally have a hyperdrive, and had to rely on other ships or even a hyperdrive sled to achieve long-distance travel. This Empyrion version is similar. This configuration is capable of supporting turrets. I place a Gatling turret on the top and the bottom, and 2 forward Gatling guns firing front. Of course, you may be able to upgrade these to something else like a laser or railgun. The Gatling guns can fire via AI control at designated targets, or a passenger can control either one of them. But where is the passenger seat? In Star Wars, the cockpit is often shown to have 2 seats. It was quite a challenge to get 2 seats in the cockpit of this ship in Empyrion, so instead I added an enclosed passenger seat behind the cockpit, which is essentially a pressurized coffin to ride in. But from that seat you can use external view and access either one of the turrets for manual control. I like to leave this ship's turrets on when stepping out onto an alien planet with hostile life forms. The turrets will cover you while you do what you need to do. The turrets also seem to be better at spotting those life forms or enemies than my own eyeballs, so when they suddenly start firing, they point the way to the threat. The ship's performance is not blastingly fast, but fairly decent. The thruster layout seems to yield a fair bit of maneuverability. The main thruster in the back can certainly be upgraded if a higher tier CPU is installed. Okay, now let's talk about the challenge of making this small, scrappy bucket capable of faster than light travel. In Empyrion, the furthest a small vessel like this one can warp is 15 AU, about 15 times the distance to our own sun. This means it cannot be used on its own for interstellar travel. To achieve warp capability, you need to have a small warp core and a pentaxid tank to fuel it. You'll notice right here in the upgrade bay is a labeled slot for both. P for pentaxid and W for warp core, which will fit neatly inside here. The problem is, with the warp drive installed, plus 2 Gatling guns, 2 turrets, and all the thrusters, this will overload a T2 CPU. If upgrading the CPU core to a Tier 3 is not an option, the next best option is to remove most of the weapons. The cargo bay can be upgraded to temporarily stow these dismounted weapons. This means you can refit the ship as needed while on your expedition. You can jump to another system without weapons, stow the warp drive, and put your weapons back from the storage if you need to. The other option is to upgrade the CPU to a tier 3, which would open up everything for you and make it almost a whole new ship. You would then upgrade the thrusters, the steel hull perhaps to a combat steel or something stronger, add shields, and any number of things. Well, this is a little bit of a new kind of content. If you guys enjoyed this video, I look forward to making more Empyrion ship videos. We'll see how this goes. I'm a little limited on what kind of ships I can design. Things like Star Trek's Federation ships have a lot of curves and things, which is a lot harder to achieve in Empyrion. But I'm always open to ideas on what I could do. Feel free to say in the comments what you think. Until next time, space friends.